Da 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 da. Da 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 da.
Oh wait, sorry, wrong trilogy.
Wrong trilogy. Ah! Du, 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 du. That's the one. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this much delayed reflection on the Hobbit trilogy. Jackson, released in 2012, 13, and 14, based on the book by J.R.R. Tolkien, along with some Appendices material, and is the official prequel to Lord of the Rings. So, and I'm joined today by Jack. So this will be interesting. So, let's begin where it begins with The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey. So, Jack, if you're still there,
Yes.
would you like to give us your opinion on The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey?
Well, The Hobbit, The Unexpected Journey. I just recently reviewed these films on my YouTube channel, and took me a while to get round to them. But I finally did. And Unexpected Journey. I think this is a good film. I think the cast here are really good. I think Martin Freeman as Bilbo Baggins is
That's the one.
Yeah, as Bilbo Baggins, he's really good. I like the start of the film, like where we have Ian Holm as Bilbo writing down his the Hobbit, writing down his adventure, and we sort of cut then to Martin Freeman as Bilbo 60 years sort of previously. And I mean, what's interesting about the Hobbit trilogy is the fact that it wasn't originally going to be directed by Peter Jackson. Guillermo del Toro was going to two films. It was going to be the Hobbit trilogy was actually going to be only two films, and because I mean the Hobbit is only one book. Lord of the Rings is actually three books. So they were going to make two films about it, but unfortunately he sort of had to step. He had to go, and Jackson came aboard.
But that was only due to the project had issues getting greenlit, and Guillermo del Toro couldn't hang around for ages and ages, so he had to leave and embark on another project. So I think it was fate that Jackson ended up stepping back into Middle-earth. I can't really imagine Guillermo del Toro directing it, to be honest. I'm glad that Jackson came in. I know it's three movies, but I'm glad that he did it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I will say. I mean, it's good that Jackson came in and directed it, because I mean, he directed the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So,
hello, one viewer.
Yes, is it Harry? If it's Harry, get on this fucking cast right now.
Yeah, Harry, if you're out there, we were waiting for you.
Yeah, if you're the one viewer, then feel free to leave us a message to come on the hangout. But anyway, but yeah, Unexpected Journey. I think like the first, I think it's really interesting. Like you see the dwarves, and it's nice to see Gandalf back this time, but Gandalf the Grey. Before he was Gandalf the White. Yeah, Gandalf the Gay.
No, you will pass. You will pass right this way, sir.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I will say is I agree with you. I prefer Gandalf the Grey to Gandalf the White, just because he's just more of a presence, and I just like him better as a character. Although my brother prefers Gandalf the White, but yeah, I will say I prefer Gandalf the Grey, because Gandalf the White's more of a kind of, he's just sort of a spirit kind of guide.
Yeah,
he doesn't.
Imagine if Harrison Ford played Gandalf. Good morning. You mean to wish me a good morning, or that it's a good morning whether I want it or not?
You shall not pass the Walmart checkout. Okay, let's not go back there.
Let's not go there.
Yeah.
Back to the Hobbit.
Yeah. Anyway, the Unexpected Journey. It was great. Okay. God. Oh God.
Get me off.
history repeating itself. No, but I think it's great to see Gandalf the Grey back again, and I think Martin Freeman really does a good job as Bilbo. I mean, Bilbo, I would say straight away, yeah, I mean, I would say, you know, I prefer Bilbo any day over Frodo. I mean, Frodo's not a bad character, but Bilbo's just got more courage. He's got more, you know, heart and loyalty. I mean, he kind of reminds me of Sam in some ways. He kind of reminds me like the Sam of the Hobbit trilogy.
He's a bit more old-fashioned than Sam.
Yeah. Well, of course, it's 60 years before. Yeah. But I mean, I think Martin Freeman does a really good job, and he's just a really likable character. I mean, I like that opening shot, like where he's sitting on the bench and it's Ian Holm, and then he blows the ring of smoke, and then it says "unexpected journey," and then you see it cuts to him as much younger as Bilbo, and I like the stuff between him and Gandalf. He's like, "Quest? No, thank you, not today." Like he really just doesn't want to go on a quest. Like he's just like,
he's basically, we start out with Bilbo as a bit of a hermit.
He's just basically he's living on his own in the Shire. He's peaceful. He's content. He doesn't want to go on any journey, which is really funny. Like just the banter between him and Gandalf the Grey. Like, you know, he just goes inside, and Gandalf, of course, leaves that mark on his door, and then we have that really funny scene where we see all the dwarves arrive at his house, and they start eating the cheese and start like raiding his like food supply and all that, which is really you know, it's humorous. You know, it's quite humorous and fun.
Yeah, I mean, already you can tell it's lighter in tone to Lord of the Rings. It's very different.
Yeah, because like The Hobbit's it's a children's book, while like Lord of the Rings is more for adults.
Be a child.
No. Well, I mean, it's more written for children than Lord of the Rings is written more for adults. Yeah, and you know the scenes, where they're there, and we're introduced to all the dwarves is really funny. I mean, I think all the dwarves are really well cast. Like, you've got James Nesbitt as one of the dwarves. You've got Aidan Turner as Keeley. You've got Bomber and all that. I mean, they're all really well cast. And the dwarves, I think, I find them really enjoyable. And of course, Thorin, played by Richard Armitage, and we sort of see his backstory in a minute. But I mean, all this stuff with them arriving, that's good. And I think it's really interesting, like the sort of opening prologue you have to this kind of like Fellowship of the Ring, where you see Erebor, and you see the king dwarf of the mountain. I think it's Thorin's grandfather, and you see that he becomes he becomes sort of attached to the gold in Erebor, and he's, you know, sort of become attached to it, and he sort of, you know, he gets the dragon sickness, he kind of goes mad, and it's interesting how that all works, like the Arkenstone and all that, and I think that's, you know, really interesting stuff. And you know, when you see Smaug attack and you see them basically driven away from Erebor, I think that stuff's all great. I mean, I think, you know, Jackson still has some really good direction here, like some of the sweeping shots of, like, you know, sort of those panning sweeping shots he does of the mountains and like people walking.
Would you say that opening prologue gets the movie off to a good start? Yeah,
I would actually. That kind of brought me into the film, and it's a good way to open the movie, and you can see why the dwarves are going on their quest, why they want to get the mountain. Well, basically want to get back to Erebor and, you know, take back the Arkenstone. And you can see Thorin sort of struggle because, you know, for a long time they've been sort of outcast. They haven't really had a home. And it's interesting as well, the fact that the elves don't help them. Like, the elves, you know, didn't help them that day when the dragon attacked, and that's why the dwarves sort of and the elves have become to be sort of mortal enemies. I mean, I think, like I said, you know, the stuff with the dwarves is quite good. But I think for me, like the first, you know, 90 minutes of this film, it's a bit slow. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I mean, the stuff with the dwarves is good, but it just kind of feels like Jackson, for me anyway, is kind of padding the film out, trying to, you know, pad it out to make it a trilogy. Which, you know, I mean, like I said, it's not bad. Like, I mean, it's still enjoyable, but it's just kind of like, okay, can we get to the point here?
Found that there were too many unnecessary scenes.
Yeah, like just too many scenes of them kind of like, I mean, even though it's funny, but like too many scenes of the dwarves sort of burping and having fun at the dinner table and sort of, you know, singing songs. I mean, it's not bad. I mean, the Misty Mounted song, I think, is a really good song, you know, where Thorns by the fireplace. And, you know, it's interesting, you know, the way Gandalf says, we need a burglar, and he kind of gets, and basically he forces Bilbo to come along with him. And I think that stuff is interesting. And I think Martin Freeman gives a really good performance. I think he's probably the best performance of the film. Well, one of the best performances of the film anyway. I mean, the stuff after that is interesting, like when you see they go off, and then you have the scene with the trolls, and you know, I mean, the scene with the trolls, like, it's not bad, but I think maybe they could have cut that down a little bit. It's kind of funny though, like, you know, when they're like they're going to eat all the dwarves, and then Gandalf comes in and
then he sneezes on Bilbo.
yeah, which is disgusting. Kind of reminds me of that scene from Philosopher's Stone when the troll sneezes. Like, oh, that's disgusting as well. Yeah, troll in the dungeon.
What do you want to know? Oh.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, that scene's quite good. And then, you know, we see Gandalf splits the stone, and the light comes in, so they're frozen. And it's cool, like, you know, when he gives them like the swords, like you see he gives like Bilbo just like elven, like these ancient elven swords, and they're basically blue. It sort of gives like a blue light, which is pretty cool, like the text when orcs and stuff are nearby.
Yeah, the same sort
I think
Frodo that he passes to Frodo in The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, which is really cool. And you know, I think there's some really good stuff going on here. I mean, we get to see. It's cool when they get to Rivendell, and we're reintroduced to Galadriel, and we have Saruman played by Christopher Lee, which is great. Like, you sort of see him on the good side this time, which is really interesting. You sort of see like their conflict. Like, basically, Gandalf knows that, you know, Sauron is coming back. Like, he knows that basically trouble's going to be happening soon, and that Sauron will probably return. And I mean, you're introduced to some other characters in this, like Radagast, played by Sylvester McCoy.
Well, played by more like himself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Sylvester McCoy's Radagast. I mean, I know some people really hate him. Like, some people say he's a J.R.R. Binks of the Hobbit trilogy. I mean, I don't think he's that bad. I mean, I thought he was tolerable. I mean, I found him a little bit more annoying in the second film than I did the first film. I think he's, I mean, I think the stuff with him, like, because he's kind of like an outcast wizard. Like, it's interesting. You see the ranks to the wizards in this. Like, you sort of have the white wizard, which is Saruman, then you have the two blue wizards, and then you have Gandalf the Grey, and then you have Radagast the Brown.
Yeah.
So there's sort of a rank, and that's interesting.
He's basically, also, if you think about it, he's a bit of a stoner, because he's surrounded by magic items.
Yeah. Yeah, you could say that. I mean, or you could just say Sylvester McCoy always looks like he's a stoner when he's performing. No, but I mean, I think Radagast, you know, I think he's decent, to be honest. I don't understand why so many people hate him or just despise him. I mean, I found him a bit more annoying in the second film than I actually did in the first, even though he has less screen time in the second film.
He has less screen time in number 2.
Yeah, I mean, I'll get to my reasons why I didn't like him so much in the second one. But anyway, I mean, it's interesting. Like, I think one of the rabbits is hurt, and like he cures it, and he goes on his sleigh thing, whatever the hell it is. It's like Santa's sleigh, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I never knew Radagast delivered my Christmas presents.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a grey beard. I mean, one thing I will say about Radagast, I mean, I don't get why he's bird shit in his hair. I mean, that's one thing.
That was probably intended for comedy reasons.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's just
that's probably Jackson's idea. But it kind of suits him, because he is basically like Mother Nature in Middle Earth. Like, he's the one that looks after all the creatures and everything. Like, there's a scene when he it's not even in the book, but he saves a hedgehog, which is quite cool, I suppose.
Yeah. That was a good scene. I think that was the scene I was talking about. Yeah, it's dying, whatever, and he saves that. I mean, I will say there is a bit more CGI here than there is in Lord of the Rings. Like, I mean, Azog, yeah, Azog, the main villain, he's just all CGI, which it doesn't bother me too much. I mean,
he looks cool. I think he looks scary.
Yeah, he looks cool, and I think the CGI is decent. I mean, like you said, I mean, they would have made a prosthetic, but he just went that character design just went through hell. So they had them. I can understand why they didn't make it prosthetic in the next two, because it just wouldn't. It'd just be out of. It just wouldn't work. Yeah, be inconsistent. Yeah, so. I mean, I would prefer to be prosthetic, but as CGI, he's pretty cool. Like his design, like it's interesting. Like the flashback scenes you see between him and Thorin when Thorin cuts off his arm, and I think, and I think
I thought that battle scene was really good.
Yeah, and Azog, doesn't he kill his father? I believe
he beheads Thorin's grandfather.
Yeah,
actually, in the extended cut of Desolation of Smaug, you see Azog cut Thorin's father's finger off, and obviously because he has one of the 7 dwarven rings, but Thrain escapes, and we actually find him in Dol Guldur. I mean, I'll explain more about that when I talk about the Desolation of Smaug, but he kills Thorin's grandfather, but dies in Dol Guldur, the extended version of the second film. But anyway, back to the first film. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. But I mean that flashback scene between him and Thorin's really cool. Like we see he cuts off his arm. Now it's this sort of spike thing in his arm, which is quite cool. And the rags, or whatever they are, like the big wolf things, they're cool as well. And it's like cool when you see them, like, wargs, when they're chasing them across the plains or whatever. That was really good. I mean, I think after the scene. After Rivendell, I think is where the film really picks up for me. Is like when the film starts to get really good. Like all the stuff with them, like when they're climbing past the mountains and they're like, I can't believe it, stone giants. That's really good. And I like Bilbo's sort of conflict, like when Thorin says you have no place here, and then he decides to leave during the night. He's like, he's right, I have no place here. And then they fall down that shaft, and they arrived in the Goblin King sort of underground place, and it's interesting. Yeah, you got Barry Humphries in this as the King of the Goblin. Yeah, Damon Everidge. Yeah, hello. You can just imagine him doing that.
Hello, hello, dwarves. Hello.
Yeah, like
that would be a funny version of The Hobbit. I would love to see that actually.
Yeah, maybe you should do an edit.
They made the parody of that scene in The Hobbit when they go to the Goblin's lair.
Yeah, maybe you should do an edit of that. I don't know.
Try my best.
Yeah, but
the most recent edit that I did. I'll show it to you later on. But
yeah, no, but I mean, that seems quite interesting. I mean, Goblin King's like chin or whatever, because it droops down, just looks like a ball sack, which is kind of funny.
I think it's meant to be like a triple chin or something.
Yeah, like a big droopy chin or whatever.
Curtain.
Yeah. And I think the scenes there are really good. I like the scene, of course, probably my favorite scene is like, when they're fighting and Bilbo falls down the mountain. Yeah, where we get to Gollum. Yeah, Gollum. Seeing Andy Serkis back as Gollum was just amazing. And I think the CGI...
It was the first scene they ever shot on The Hobbit. That riddle scene, which is amazing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that scene is just it's the highlight of the film for me. That's probably my favorite scene in the film. Not that
it's actually one of the best chapters of the book as well. If you ever get a chance to read the Hobbit book, then I think you'll love that chapter. It's pretty much a very faithful adaptation of the scene as it was in the book. It's one of the most closest scenes, I think. I think a lot because they take a lot of liberties with the rest of it, obviously, because they make a trilogy. But that scene was probably the one that stuck the closest, along with the Smaug one. But this one was the closest. But the Smaug one obviously made it more of an action scene as well, because they had to have a movie. So yeah, but no, this one, great. Yeah, sorry, I'll let you continue.
Well, it's fine. Yeah, I mean the scene between Bilbo and Gollum is just great. I mean, it's great to see Andy Serkis back for the fourth and last time. Well, actually, sorry, the third and last time because he wasn't in Return of the King. It's
that's precious.
Yeah, I mean, it was great to have him back as Gollum, and that scene is just great. And I think the CGI, like, since nearly 10 years since Return of the King, has got even better.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I mean, Andy Serkis said this. Gollum looks kind of hot, actually, in The Hobbit.
Yeah, that's a bit weird, but
precious.
We got Gollum in the room here. Yeah, no, I mean, it's a good, really good impression. Yeah, the scene is really great, and I think Martin Freeman's great, and just the riddles they're playing back and forth between each other. It's like, you show me the way out, and if I get all the questions right.
The first time you watched it, did you find them difficult?
Sorry?
The first time you watched the film, were you able to guess the riddles, or did you find that difficult?
Some of them I could guess, but some I couldn't. But I mean, the riddles themselves are really cool, and that scene's just great, like the banter back and forth between Bilbo and Gollum. And I just think Gollum's really great. Like, of course, you got the split personality again. Gollum sort of Smeagol, and I really like the bit where you have Bilbo there, and he sees the ring and he picks it up and he's like, what have I got in my pocket? And and he doesn't know, and so he sort of has to give in. Yeah, he sort of has to give in, and he loses, but then he guesses, like, he loses the ring and he guesses that he knows what it is.
Bilbo's stolen it.
Yeah, and then he attacks him, and we see he basically escapes, and that scene is just brilliant. Like, the acting between the two of them is really great, and it's great, like, when you see ring on, and he's thinking of killing Gollum, but he kind of he spares him. I mean, if he killed Gollum, we wouldn't have him in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. But I mean, I guess because he sort of feels sorry for Gollum because the ring has just done that to him. But I mean, the stuff with the Goblin King's great after that, and then you sort of have the finale where you see they escape the cave, and you have them being attacked by pine cones. Yeah, okay. Oh, it's just going the way to do a pray. No, but I mean the scene with the scene where they're being attacked by Azog and all that on the trees, and then they're throwing like the flaming pine cones down. I think that's really great. And the scene where Thorin is nearly attacked and killed by Azog, and then Bilbo jumps in and starts to fight them back. I mean, that scene is just epic. I mean, Frodo would never do anything like that. I mean, Frodo's just kind of too much of a wimp in battle. But Bilbo, he fights back and he kicks Azog's arse, and he sees Thorin. And I just love the ending of the movie, like where you see, where you see Thorin saying, did I say you had no place in here? That that you had no place coming with us? He's like, I couldn't have been more wrong. And I just love that scene, where they just kind of hug, and Thorin, sort of sees Bilbo as a friend finally, because he just thinks Bilbo's kind of a burden. And that's a great scene. And the ending of the film, I think, is really good. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's, that's an unexpected journey. I mean, I think it's a good film. I wouldn't say it's the best of the Hobbit trilogy.
How dare you?
No, I think it's good, but I think there are a few problems. Like, I can't say it's like a masterpiece or a great film. I mean, I think, like I said, the first hour and a half is just kind of, it's just a bit too slow for me. Like, I mean, I think all the stuff after Rivendell is great, but like the first 90 minutes, I just kind of think it's padding, and you could have cut some of those scenes down. Like, I kind of agree with Mark Kermode. Like, this film probably could have just been 2 hours. Like, I think 2 hours would have been enough for it. I mean, it does, like he says, I think have a bit of Bilbo baggage, but
or dildo baggage.
Yeah, but I still think it's a good film. I mean, still an enjoyable film. So I'm going to give Unexpected Journey 7 out of 10.
Hmm. Oh, well.
What is it? You going to buy something from Walmart?
I'm going to have to disagree. I really like this movie. You could tell by the sound of my voice. Yeah, all right. Okay, back to reality. An Unexpected Journey. I really like this movie. It is my least favorite of the 3 Hobbit films. Actually, all of the 6 Middle-earth movies. But I still really think there's a lot to enjoy here. I think what's great is that Peter Jackson pretty much gives you a similar experience to what you had in The Lord of the Rings, particularly with the Fellowship of the Ring. And I mean, it's amazing because this movie basically ends at chapter 6 of the book. So the way that they stretched 6 chapters of a book is quite something. But
would you say that maybe like I know you're a much bigger fan of Unexpected Journey than me. Do you think maybe they didn't need to stretch some of it out? Like,
yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm going to get onto that later on.
Yeah.
But I really like it, and I think it's I think obviously it generally gets sort of a mixed response, but I appreciate it a lot for what it is, and I really enjoy it. It's good fun. It's lighter than Lord of the Rings. I didn't mind some of the slower scenes because I got to know the dwarves and Thorin and Bilbo, and I appreciated the lighter comedic side of the movie. But the story is very good, and the beginning of the film is great because we have a prologue, and I was really hoping that we would, and I'm glad we did get that because it explains all the backstory. Because the book doesn't tell all of the backstory, so some of it is a little bit unclear. But this first movie does a good job at setting things up, particularly with Thorin, and I really like the characters here. The fact that obviously this is Bilbo's story, and I agree with you, Bilbo is much more compelling than Frodo. But I have nothing against Frodo. I like Frodo. I like him.
Yeah.
As a warrior, he's useless. He gets himself injured so much. But Bilbo is great. I think it's a very hard character to play, and Martin Freeman does a great job at kind of God, excuse me, I've got a cough. At kind of getting the old-fashioned prissiness about him, and because over the trilogy we will see him change, and the experience will change him, and that's what Gandalf wants to do. He wants to change him. He wants to get him out of this same old dull routine where he's just kind of sitting at in his house doing nothing, being a hermit essentially. So he kind of forces the dwarves on him, and to kind of test his patience and test him around. And I like that. That's very funny when all the dwarves come to his house and start trashing the place, and that is a laugh. And it's great where Martin Freeman, you could just see him, he's getting so stressed and he's random. He's like, bother and fustigate these dwarves! And they sing a song as well, Blunt the Knives, which is quite entertaining. The book actually has quite a few songs in. In the extended edition of this movie, the Goblin King has his own song. You can find the scene on YouTube. It is quite funny. And some of the rhythms they came up with are amazing, really, really good, and it's really something that establishes the distinction between this and Lord of the Rings. Setting up the Lord of the Rings, I mean, it's tying into the Fellowship of the Ring. I mean, when Bilbo finds the ring in the cave with Gollum, we saw a kind of an inkling in the prologue, but this we get the full scene, which is great, and it's a great build-up. I mean, yes, I think the biggest setback with this movie is that, yes, the first hour is a little bit slow. Definitely the first hour for me. I think once we get to the trolls, for me, it starts to pick up a little bit. Maybe they spend an eensy-weensy bit too long in the Shire, but I don't mind. I think it's fine, and I was just enjoying the characters and enjoying the fun tone, and then we'll see when we get the action. It's great. It is a great fun adventure when it gets going. I also loved the introduction of Thorin. I thought Richard Armitage did a great job, and excuse me, his performance is so underrated. Nobody talks about him when they review The Hobbit. I think he's so underappreciated in this trilogy.
Well, yeah, I think he's really great.
Sorry, excuse me. And when we learn about what happened to his grandfather and how he succumbed to the gold, and then I mean, that opening prologue is fascinating when Smaug attacks the mountain. That is pretty spectacular. And then when his grandfather is beheaded by Azog, that's great. I like the rivalry between Thorin and Azog. I've always admired it. You can see Thorin is just fueled with rage, and if he doesn't go on this quest and reclaim what is his, die and fade away. And there's a pretty pretty epic scene towards the end to that. I like that we go to loads of different places. Obviously, we go back to the Shire, some familiar places as well as some new ones. It's nice to see Rivendell again. That's great. I mean, even though there's more CGI, but let it slide. We go to the Goblin's Lair, which is cool. We see some trolls, and that's also very good. I think the action of this movie is very good. The troll sequence is quite funny. That was a good chapter in the book, and I liked how Jackson directed it. And maybe that scene was a bit drawn out, but I thought the dialogue between the trolls was kind of funny, so I just enjoyed it, what it was. And then Martin Freeman was Bilbo scrambling, a burglar hobbit. And then they made the action scene really epic. I mean, Jackson, one thing you can trust Peter Jackson is to give you a great action scene, a great battle. You know, he can direct action really well, just as well as the drama and the story and the characters. And I like the moment when Gandalf turns them to stone and he says, "The dawn will take you all," and then bang. That is great. That is really good. There's another scene where they get chased by the wargs across the plains of New Zealand. That was cool. Everything in the Goblin's Lair is awesome. That is brilliant. I love the goblins chase when they're running through the lair and they're just massacring all the goblins. And there's some excellent camera work there. Jackson is master at camera work. He's really I think he's got back into the style and the flavor of the Rings, and some of that you can see in The Hobbit. He's really tried to give you something that is very similar. Does it work? For me, mostly, yes, it does. And I also love the climax. The climax of this film is amazing. When, in the book, the chapter was called "Out of the Frying Pan," as they mentioned. They did change it slightly, obviously, because with the inclusion of Azog. But I thought it was really cool when they were throwing the pine cones down and burning the grass, and then has that epic moment when he stands up and he charges for Azog. That is brilliant. The music for that is awesome. I'd say Howard Shore's music score is pretty solid. It's not as good as the Lord of the Rings soundtracks, obviously. But I thought, obviously some themes are reused, but I thought what he came up with was pretty decent. It was good. And particularly for that scene was great. And I think what this movie deals with is the theme of home, where belonging, identity, where do you belong? And that's the message of the movie, particularly in the scene in the end when, and Thorin says, when they're fighting the stone giants, he says, "Oh, he does not belong here. He's no place amongst us." And then Bilbo nearly decides to leave when James Nesbitt says, "Oh no, you're homesick. I understand." And he's like, "Oh no, you don't understand. You're dwarves. You don't settle in. You don't belong anywhere." And then at the end, when he gives his speech, he says, "I came back because I have a home. That's where I belong. You don't have one. I want to help you take it back if I can." So, and that is the heart of the whole story. Bilbo is a good person. He's courageous. He starts to realize that, he isn't the only one who deserves a home, and he feels sympathy for these dwarves, and that's really lovely. And those are the moments that I really appreciate in the storytelling. They chose to, give Bilbo the empathy to help the dwarves to then, and then obviously he ends up saving them most of the time in the next movie. But you can see why Gandalf likes him. You can see why Gandalf really wants him to go on this quest, and you can see by the end he's changed already.
Yeah.
By the end of this movie, he's changed.
When he kicks Azog's ass when he was trying to kill Thorin, that was great.
Yeah, I mean, he just starts. He draws a sword and he starts, killing all the orcs. I mean, that's great. I mean, yes,
Frodo would never do something like that.
No, I mean, people bitch and complain about the Eagles, but who the fuck cares? I mean, you know what? The Eagles have been so well established now. They're not a fucking taxi service. You have the evil forces in the sky that will probably see you, so why would the Eagles take them all the way there? It's just a story. There's no point. So for people to bitch about the Eagles, just stop. Just accept the fact that they are not a taxi service. They will not take our characters from point A to point B. We will have to take the scenic route, which is good.
We also have to take the tube.
Yeah. Because then there's more story.
To the bat scooter.
I mean, I think also this movie, why it's also the weakest, I mean, not necessarily because of Radagast. I think some of the scenes in the first hour are a little bit slow and unnecessary. Maybe they could have trimmed it down a little bit. Like the theatrical cut was probably too long. I mean, I was fine with it because I love watching those. I could stay in Middle Earth for hours, but for a general audience, for something that is quite a short story, they have tried to stretch it out quite dramatically. And
and I think you said, like, when you agree with me that this is like one of the only times where you prefer the theatrical cut over the extended edition.
I think this is the one time when I actually prefer the theatrical edition. I mean, I like the extended edition. There are some great scenes that they added in, and I would happily watch both versions of the film. But I think which one's better, the theatrical cut, because it kind of gets to the point a bit more. But I mean, I would happily watch the extended cut for 3 hours. It only has 13 minutes, but the stuff it adds is really good and enhances the story for me. But out of the theatrical cut is what I would have preferred. So then,
maybe they could have added more in the extended edition if they cut more out of the theatrical cut.
Yeah, exactly. So then,
diehard Middle Earth fans.
Yeah, so then they would have like 20 minutes to put back in, but instead they only put back 13 minutes, which is just fine. But it does seem a little bit. I mean, he's obviously trying to do what he's done with Lord of the Rings and increase the stories as much as possible. There is a great scene also in Rivendell with the White Council, as they're known as. Gandalf, Galadriel, Saruman, and Elrond all come together for this one scene. I mean, we see them reunite again in the third movie. I really like that scene, and obviously it's worthy to talk about Radagast as well. There was
rice pudding.
God, yeah, there was a whole thing on the internet. It was like a petition against Radagast when this film was coming out, and I thought that's not fair. Like, he is not the Jar Jar Binks of Middle Earth. No way. He's not that annoying. I mean, yes, he's a bit eccentric, but he's on screen for about 10 minutes. So
yeah,
what's the problem? What's the big fuss? And he's there.
And it's not as annoying as Jar Jar Binks, like God.
No, exactly. Actually, he's quite important to the story in this instance because he goes to Dol Guldur, discovers that there is an evil necromancer, luring there. So he brings back some evidence. He foreshadows plot points in the Desolation of Smaug and the Battle of the Five Armies. So, and we get to sort of see him as a character. Finding out about the Order of the Wizards, that was cool. The backstory of Thorin and that battle against the orcs and Azog in Moria was great. The riddle scene with Gollum is amazing. That is the best scene of the movie, and it was it was the perfect adaptation of that scene, just as I imagined it in the book. I'm glad that they did it that way. When they filmed it and rehearsed it, they treated it like a piece of theatre, and it looks as though you could just watch that isolated scene in a theatre piece. I would love to do that.
And for me, it's like I Would you agree maybe it's the best scene of the film?
Yeah. I just said that. But yeah,
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you.
no, it's all right. Yeah, it is my favorite scene in the movie, and it's just a genius scene. I actually had the luxury of performing it myself at my drama club a few years ago. I was Gollum, obviously, and crawling on the floor, doing all of that. And my friend,
Who was Harrison Ford?
oh, fuck that shit. Oh. A friend of mine, he was Bilbo. We had to cut the scene down because it was quite long, but we did a condensed version of it, and it was a lot of fun. It's physically taxing. I was on my hands and knees. It was tiring, but I would do it again in a flash. But anyway, I also love the moment when Bilbo spares Gollum, because that's an important moment that is foreshadowed for Lord of the Rings. Because Gandalf says to Frodo in the fellowship that stayed Bilbo's hand, and we get to see that in an unexpected journey. When Bilbo doesn't kill Gollum, he sees how much Gollum wants his ring, and so Bilbo has sympathy. He's really like feeling pity for this creature, so he just escapes and lets him live, and I think that's very noble. I mean, say what you will about the spiders in the next movie, but we'll get to that in a minute. And when Bilbo finds the ring, it is quite a good moment because it immediately draws you back to Lord of the Rings. You think, okay, wow.
Oh,
we know.
By the way,
yeah.
Future filmmaker asks if he can join the Hobbit trilogy reflection, if that's okay. He says that in the live chat. Like,
yeah. You can add Josh in if you want.
Okay. All right. I'll just go on anyway.
Yeah, I'll just add him. So yeah, I'm glad that Jackson has told it like that. Obviously, I mean that's how it is in the book. Bilbo finds the ring, and it immediately sets you up because you know where it's all going to lead in Return of the King. So it got me so excited when I saw that, and I thought they handled that really well. It is a hi Josh.
Hello.
I mean, it is a long movie. There's no question. You have to have the patience to sit through it. If you're a die-hard fan of the original trilogy, you will probably like it. We'll definitely like it to a certain degree.
We're talking about Unexpected Journey. Cool.
Sorry, I got a message. Yeah, I'm just wrapping up. And I thought it was very good. Yeah, I would say that there was maybe a bit too much CGI. I think Jackson probably took a slightly lazy approach with the visual side of the movie in terms of the effects. They kind of pigged out on the CGI a little bit, but I mean, it was never meant to be as good as Lord of the Rings anyway. But I thought it was very well done. It could have been paced a bit better, but I thought there was a lot of stuff in it that I certainly appreciated, and it got me super excited for the second and third movie. And I think when it ends with Smaug's eye opening, that was a really good tease for the Desolation of Smaug.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. That was great. Yeah. Great scene.
Well, like I said, I mean the finale for this movie was epic. I mean it didn't like obviously wrap things up. It left things to be continued. But
yeah, it leaves
there was a lot
sort of in it.
Yeah.
For the second and third film.
Yeah, I mean, and I think visually it's very good, and it definitely brought me back into the world of Middle Earth. And I think the dwarves, actually, I just haven't mentioned them yet. The dwarves are delightful characters. I think all of them have been cast really well. Even if all of them, I mean, there's 13 of them, so you can't develop all of them. But the ones that aren't, they've made them all look distinctive. They've at least made them look distinctive. And the ones we focus on, like Thorin, Fili, Kili, Dwalin, Balin, and Gloin in some cases, and obviously Bofa and Bomba, get some development, and they will look great, and they have their own characters. So I think they've all been really well cast. But yeah, I really like An Unexpected Journey, even if it is my least favorite. There's still enough for me to enjoy, so I rate it a very strong 9 out of 10. And also, yes, I forgot to mention, and Ian Holm's cameos are most appreciated. And I thought that was nice the way it tied in at the very beginning. I mean, Jeremy Jahns bitched about that, saying, "Oh, it doesn't have to forcefully tie in, you know." But isn't that the point of the prequel? Tie in?
Of course, it's going to tie into the original trilogy.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, The Hobbit and Unexpected Journey. I thought it was a great start. Comparing this trilogy to the Star Wars prequels, just get out. Just get out, please. Okay. I'm now going to hand the microphone over to Josh. Josh, what do you think of An Unexpected Journey?
Well, before I get into Unexpected Journey, let me just say right now, for the longest time, I held off of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I didn't get into Lord of the Rings until 2009. And the first Lord of the Rings movie I saw was Return of the King. That instantly became my favorite. I saw the other two films. I Fellowship and I love Earth, and I think they're great movies. They took the a bit time during the summer to watch the extended versions of all three of the Lord of the Rings films. And theatrically and extendedly, Return of the King is my favorite, and it is my favorite because I have read
my favorite as well.
But when I heard that there was a new Middle Earth movie, I didn't know that there was going to be another Middle Earth movie because I thought Lord of the Rings was the only film. But early after Peter Jackson helped Steven Spielberg with Adventures of Tintin, which he was producer on that movie, I heard news that there was going to be a new trilogy. Originally, I looked it up, and Guillermo del Toro was supposed to take over this trilogy. But there was a lot of issues with it, and so he, of course, didn't, but he did stay on as art screenwriter for these films. And Peter Jackson, that he was doing a new trilogy, and when I heard that it was going to be a prequel trilogy to the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I was a little excited, but I was also a little mixed because prequels sometimes can be very hit and miss. But I am someone who's grown to enjoy. I like the Star Wars prequels. I don't think they're horrible. So The Hobbit: Unexpected Journey, I saw the ad on TV, and then I saw the TV spot, and then I saw a trailer on the film's official website. And then when the movie was released, I saw the film. I didn't see it in theaters, of course, but I did see it. But it was I really thought Unexpected Journey was a great start to the franchise. And this is the theatrically to be released, but the first film chronologically.
Yeah.
And I know that people complain that the movie is boring, slow. It's a 2 hour and 3 minute film, but it's much longer than that with the extended version of the movie.
Yeah, it's 3 hours with the extended cut.
Yeah,
You have to really have the patience to sit down, and you have to be willing to sit down because I'm willing to sit, but sometimes I can feel a movie's length. But with Lord of the Rings movies, I don't feel any of the lengths. But I enjoy the journey. I love how it ties into the original trilogy with the beginning with Elijah in the home. I think Martin Freeman is an amazing choice for Bilbo. It was great seeing Ian McCullough back. Great
Morgan Freeman, did you say?
Martin Freeman.
All right, I said Morgan Freeman. Sorry.
Martin. I love seeing Elrond back, Galadriel back, and the late Christopher Lee Saruman back. Great seeing them back here, and it's great to see Andy Serkis back as Gollum. The most capture on him, so it looks pretty good. Sure, you could say there's a little too much CGI, but I don't mind
I mean, it's not like George Lucas with the Star Wars prequels when he just pigged out like on the green screen.
Yeah, I don't mind it having a whole lot of CGI. There's still some good practical work and some good makeup work from Wes work, digital and Wes workshop, the weapons, miniatures, that really work into it. The movie, it was great. Going back to the world again. I really enjoyed seeing seeing all the hot stuff back. It did take going, but I didn't find it taking a long time. And you have 12 doors. You have 13 doors here. All the doors, sure, were not all developed. They focused on the main one. I like the doors. They're pretty cool. The music by Hal is great. He's all Miller with the music. I basically have a little issue with it, and I feel like the movie I feel like it does take a lot of good going. That's the only issue I have with the film. But if I can sit there and be invested into the world, doing my time is not a problem with me. And just how the movie is put together. Peter Jackson worked hard to bring J.R.R. Tolkien's vision to life, and if he was able to
Josh?
I just feel like anyways,
sorry, I'm having trouble understanding what you're saying, buddy.
now and so yeah, I really do think that Peter Jackson and J.R.R. Tolkien, he was still around, and if he was able to see all 6 Middle Earth movies, and I think he would have been very happy with Peter Jackson's
Yeah.
movies were made by a fan of the book. You can tell they were made by fans, and it shows.
Yeah.
I think maybe the first 3 Lord of the Rings films. I don't know about the Hobbit since they sort of stretched that out, but
yeah, I do really like how this movie sets up Desolation of Smaug at the end of the film, where you have the Smaug's eye, and that was awesome. And the song at the end during the credits, song at the Lonely Mountain, I really do like that song.
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, that is a good song. It's a nice reprise of Misty Mountains, which is good. Yeah.
And then basically, I'm praising this movie a lot because this trilogy deserves to be praised. While not as good as the Lord of the Rings trilogy, there's things like here. This is not the worst trilogy I've seen. I've seen worse film trilogy, and I do mean worse. But this is an amazing start to an awesome trilogy from 2012 to 2014, and I give The Hobbit and Unexpected Journey. I'm gonna give this movie a 9.1 out of 10.
Awesome, thank you, Josh. Right, then we move on to the middle film of this trilogy, The Hobbit: The Desolation of Smaug. That is an awesome title. Okay, so I'm going to hand the mic over to Jack. So, of The Desolation of Smaug.
Yeah, Desolation of Smaug. I think this is easily the best of the Hobbit trilogy.
Yeah, boy.
Journey was good, but it was quite slow for me. Here, Desolation of Smaug, it cuts out all the fat and gets to the real meat of the story. I mean, I think the beginning is just brilliant, like the way it picks up from unexpected journey. And I just think there's a lot more going on here. I think Jackson really got to the main part of the book here, and it definitely shows. I mean, I think the dwarves here are all really great. I think Martin Freeman here is even low. And I just think there's some really great scenes in this. I mean, we're introduced to some new characters like Tariel, who wasn't in the book. This sort of elf, she's good in the film. And I think it's interesting that we see Legolas's father, even though Legolas isn't in the books. It's nice to have him back in the Hobbit trilogy. I mean, but Legolas is, not really in this film, but I think maybe in the next film. I think it's a little bit obvious that they made Orlando Bloom, they put CGI on his face. Like, it's pretty obvious that they're trying to make him look younger, which I think maybe it would just have been better if they didn't bother with CGI, because it looks a bit fake sometimes, but it's not too much of an issue. I like the conflict. Yeah, I mean, I like the conflict between Legolas and his father. There's just some really great scenes, like the scene where we see basically where scene where they're in the forest and Bilbo's attacked by the spiders, and he basically goes berserk on one of the spiders, and he does that basically for the ring. He does all that for the ring, and he's sort of like shocked after that, which I thought was some really good acting there by Martin Freeman. I also thought, Gandalf was really good, and it's interesting in this film we finally get to sort of find out who the necromancer is in the first film, which we didn't know. And that scene is great, where Gandalf is fighting off all the orcs, and he finds out that it's Saruman who is the necromancer, which is really cool. It's one of the favorite scenes in the film. But I also love the scene that, when they get captured or taken in. The one thing I will say that's kind of a negative about this film is just the romance they set up between Keely and the romance they set up between Keely and Tariel. It's just kind of pointless. I mean, how pointless it is in the next film. It just, it adds really nothing to the movie. I didn't really care for the romance. I mean, Tariel, she's a good character, but I don't see why she had to have a love interest. I can understand why Jackson did it, maybe just to develop character, but it just doesn't really work for me. But I think the sets here are really good. I think one thing I mentioned in my reviews of the Hobbit trilogy is that the attention to detail of the Hobbit films are really great. I think the attention to detail that Jackson has in all the Middle-earth films are fantastic, and I love some of the sets here, like the prison set and all that. It's also amazing. It's a great scene where we see Bilbo manages to free all the dwarves, and we had that barrel scene, which is just epic. I love that barrel scene where they're going down the river, and Bomber's like sort of going out of control on the barrel, and we see that Keely gets shot in the leg. Just kind of reminds me of that. We get shot in the knee. Just reminds me of that line from Skyrim. I used to be an adventurer like you, then I took an hour to the knee, which is quite funny. And that's where we see him with Tariel. That barrel scene is just great. And then Legolas sort of jumping on the tops of the pool. We find out one of the dwarves is the father of Gimli. When Legolas is interrogating them. I also love that finally in the Middle-earth saga we get to see what Lake Town's like, and Lake Town is awesome, and the way the dwarves get smuggled in is great. They're in the fish barrels, and I think Stephen Fry's really good as sort of the head of Lake Town. He's a selfish kind of bastard, really, who
politicians.
He doesn't really care about anyone else apart from himself, and I think all the scenes in Lake Town are great, and when Thorin is saying, I will get you the gold, we will share the wealth, and they're all just sort of cheering and all that, which is great. And we see sort of the head man who becomes the king in the next film. I forget his name. He's really good in that, when he's saying oh, you can't do this, you can't fight Smaug and all that. And I think the characters here just get to go on a bit more of a journey than they did in the first one. Like I said, there are no slow scenes, no scenes that bored me, like Unexpected Journey. Everything here is sort of justified, apart from the love story. But I mean, it's great when we see them go into Erebor and they find a place in the key, but it doesn't work, and they sort of give up, and Thorin sort of throws a key down, and then Bilbo, sees like the passageways opening, and they manage to unlock it, and they go inside Erebor. And I have to say, Smaug is fucking awesome. I mean, Benedict Cumberbatch's Smaug, he's great. I just love Smaug, like the design of him, and Benedict Cumberbatch's voice is just great. Like, the scenes between him and Bilbo in Erebor are just great, and it's just so cool to see Erebor. Like, you see all the gold, and you see Bilbo finds the Arkenstone, and the back and forth between Bilbo and Smaug. I think like them talking back and forth is really great. And I also think I think Richard Armitage, I agree, like he's underrated. People don't mention him enough. I think he's great as Thorin. Like, that those scenes where he's with Bilbo and he's sort of pointing the sword, and he's like, "Oh, do you have the Arkenstone?" Like he kind of, I mean, and we see becomes corrupted in the next film. There's a moment there where you think he's going to kill him, but then he sort of comes to his senses. And I think the final sort of action scene in Desolation of Smaug is awesome. Like when you see them, they're trying to kill Smaug. Basically, they're, they lure him into the gold, and then they cover him in gold. And there's a scene for that where they lock him up, and we see they cover them in gold, and then we see he manages to escape and go to the gold, and he heads toward. Like the fact in this film that Smaug, he doesn't recognize the scent of hobbits, and he's saying like, "Oh, like what are you, a man?" And then he goes to Lake Town. He's like, he's like, "No, they have nothing to do with this." I just love the cliffhanger, like when he's going towards Lake Town, and he's like, they will be destroyed, basically. Yeah, and that's Desolation of Smaug, and I think it's a big improvement over Unexpected Journey. The meat of the story, no padding in this. Yeah, no padding in this film. Really great pace. I mean, I think this is a film people who were sort of waiting for. I mean, Unexpected Journey was good, but this is sort of a film that fans, I think, of Lord of the Rings are really waiting for. And it's got whatever. It's a great sequel, and I'd say it's probably on par maybe with the Lord of the Rings films. I mean, it's not as good as Return of the King, but I'd say I would put it up there with maybe Two Towers and Fellowship of the Ring. It's just a really great film, and just it feels like almost like you're watching the Lord of the Rings again with this film, which is great. And I just think the characters here are much better. Like I said, Benedict Cumberbatch's Smaug he's just great. I love him. He's just so all that, and he's just so threatening with Smaug as well. I just think the film is great too. Just so many great action scenes. The characters are all really good. Like I said, the only sort of complaint I have with this film is sort of the love story between Keely and Tariel. It adds to nothing. Like I said, Tariel is in the books, so you didn't really need to add a Jackson. I mean, I would have been fine with the love story if it added up to something in the next film, but the fact that it adds up to fuck all, basically,
yeah,
it's a downer for me. But apart from that, I think the film is really good. So I'm going to give Desolation Smaug a 9 out of 10.
Oh, nice. Cool. So, Josh, what do you think of Desolation of Smaug?
I think you'll have to go next.
Oh, where is he?
I think he's probably just going to the toilet or something.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll carry on. Smaug. First thing I have to say is fucking awesome. Now
Woo-hoo!
that is more like it. I mean, I really enjoyed the first movie, but easily the best of the trilogy, without question. I love this film, and I was so happy when I saw it. I will never forget when I saw it. So good. Both cuts, both extended and theatrical, both brilliant. It's got the best bits of the book. My favourite parts of the book actually are what this film is based on. Chapters 7 to 12 of the book, with obviously appendices material. Much more, and we get it's like the Two Towers. We get to see much more of the cultures of Middle Earth. I mean, when we go to Lake Town, that is great, and I like the look of it. It's like an old sort of shanty town, and it's kind of like a poor town, a bit like Rohan, but in a I think the crucial thing is the pacing has improved. We get off to a yomping start, and it maintains that pace throughout the rest of the film. Unexpected Journey, it took some time to get going, and it was really good, but it didn't start out as quick as this movie. But I think this is a much better movie, and there's more action as well, which obviously helps. The beginning of the movie is great. We actually get a flashback scene with Thorin and Gandalf, which is set a year before this, when they're in the Prancing Pony in Bree, which is a nice reference to the Lord of the Rings. And Peter Jackson reprises his cameo role at the very beginning of the movie, Carrot Man.
Oh yeah, that was hilarious. I noticed that straight away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's up, Doc?
What's up, Doc?
Yeah.
That's funny. I mean, who knows? It might have even been the same carrot.
Did he get it from Walmart?
I don't know. But anyway, and then we cut a year later, and the dwarves, well, the company are being hunted by Beorn, who's the bear. In the book, he's basically this aggressive brute, and he chases them into his house. And I think that's a really cool, really awesome opening. I like that very much. And we see that Azog kind of disbands the hunt for the dwarves, and then he hands that over to his son, Bolg, who's also in the similar CGI design. Azog then stays to prepare the necromancers' armies, which is cool. Then they just carry on with the quest, and then obviously they end up going into the forest of Mirkwood with all these spiders. That's a great sequence with the spiders, and there's a particularly great moment when Bilbo climbs the tree, and then he looks out ahead to the river, and there's a wonderful panning shot of him in the tree. And I mean, visually already, the movie looks fantastic. I mean, even better than the first one. I mean, because we go to more places, we see more things.
Yeah,
there's just much more here. Yeah, and the actual action scene with the spiders is awesome. It doesn't quite rival the Shelob scene in Return of the King, but that doesn't matter because this is a great scene, and we see Bilbo using the ring for the first time, and there's a particularly great moment when he drops the ring and then he finds it and he beats the spider to death. He goes, nah, bash, 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 and he keeps bashing it.
That's great.
And then he stabs it, and then he picks up the ring and says, mine. That was genuinely scary. And then he snaps out of it. He realizes what he's done, and then puts his hand to his mouth in shock, realizing what the ring can do and how far it will, which I think is, and that just shocks me. And that was a great moment. That it kind of sets up Lord of the Rings as well, because Bilbo is desperately attached to the ring. So this is the beginning of that, and I really liked the way Jackson interwove that. Also in the spider scene, the elves come back, which is nice. I mean, Legolas isn't in the book, but his dad is, so they thought, well, I think more fans would complain if Legolas wasn't in the book. In the movie, sorry. So I guess that kind of makes sense. And the introduction of Tauriel is pretty good. There's actually a nice reference to Gimli in the movie when Legolas takes a picture of Gimli out of Gloin's jacket, and he says, "Give it back, that's private." Now, what is this horrid creature? Is she like some kind of goblin mutant? That's my wee lad, Gimli. I appreciated that. That was nice. Obviously, then they're captured by the elves and taken to Thranduil. King Thranduil. Oh God, he's a bastard. Lee Pace is brilliant as King Thranduil. He is amazing in this trilogy. He didn't have much really in An Unexpected Journey. He was in the beginning, but then he just kind of went. He wasn't really involved. In this, he gets a scene with Thorin, where Thorin basically, he wants Thorin's help to get the Arkenstone, but Thorin turns him down and says, "Oh, he has no honor and he's mistrustful," which is powerful stuff. It's a great scene, very heated scene between the two of them, and then he chucks them in the cell. I agree with Jack. The romance in this movie is the biggest flaw, I can say. But my only problem with it is the romance just doesn't work. I mean, I can see what they're trying to do. It's like a Romeo and Juliet thing, like star-crossed lovers who can't really fall in love. But it just doesn't develop it. They just insert. I mean, this scene is good, like between the two of them in the prison. But then after that, they don't see each other very much. And I was thinking, okay, when I first saw the movie, all right, I'll accept it for what it is in this movie because it was kind of cool. I mean, they did reunite at the very end, but if it was, I thought, okay, I'll buy it for this movie if it's going to lead to somewhere in the third movie, and it didn't. But I mean, at least in this movie, they tried to make it believable. I mean, in the scene when she heals him at the end, that was powerful. But in the third film, they barely interact, which is such a shame. But anyway, yeah. Then we get an awesome action sequence with the barrels. Now, this is one of the best chapters of the book as well, and it is just so much fun. I mean, it's so easy, but that's what you can get away with that with The Hobbit, because The Hobbit is a lighter story in tone. It is just hilarious, and particularly the bomber bit when
he's spinning under control. Yeah,
he just annihilates the orcs. just cracked me up. The bit of the gate was really cool. The orcs just storm the Elven Gate, and then they try and climb into the barrels. It gets crazy. I mean, Jackson really it was in the book, and I'm glad he did that. He made it so epic. I also like seeing Gandalf's quest in this film, seeing him go to the high fells of Rudar, and he finds the tomb of where the 9 ringwraiths were, and Radagast shows up again as well. And then they have to go to Dol Guldur, and then they discover, oh, it's Sauron. He's back. Was it really much of a mystery?
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, that scene is awesome when Gandalf goes into Dol Guldur, is attacked by Azog, and then he confronts Sauron, and the music for that scene is great. But I think some of the best scenes of the movie are actually towards the end as well, when we see Bilbo encounter the dragon. That fucking dragon, my god, is brilliant in this movie. He's fucking massive. He's like the size of 3 jumbo jets. He's huge. Bilbo is brilliant. Again, another scene with Bilbo and one character which just stands out so much. I mean, the Gollum scene was great in the first movie. This scene is great for the second movie. And then obviously they turn it into a big action climax in the end of the movie to because in the book, basically what happens is the dwarves enter the mountain, but then they have a bit of a talk, a bit of a domestic, but they don't actually fight him. And then he just flies off to the mountain, to Lake Town. It's not compelling. For a movie, that wouldn't work. So I'm glad they made it more action-packed, which is good. And I thought the cliffhanger ending was perfect for this movie. A lot of people said that the opening of the third one should have been at the end of this one. I don't think so. I don't think it would have worked, because we've already had a long battle with Smaug in the mountain. I can understand, Jack, why you may disagree, but I thought the cliffhanger ending for this film worked perfectly. And I mean, it is just unfortunate in the next chapter of the book Smaug would die, but I mean, Smaug isn't really crucial to the third movie anyway, but we'll get to the third movie in a minute. I just think from beginning to end, it's an absolute blast. I always have fun watching the Desolation of Smaug. It's the one I've seen the most. Howard Shore's music score, it's not bad. It's good, but it's probably his weakest score of the 6. I thought some of the music was kind of unmemorable, but it's still good. I mean, would you agree, Jack? Jack?
Oh yeah, I would. Yeah.
Oh right, okay.
No, I know. I think the score is probably the weakest here. Yeah, but it's still not. Yeah, but still not bad.
Yeah, I mean, it fits for the film. I mean, there are some good themes in there, like the Lake Town theme is good. And also regarding Lake Town, I forgot to mention, we obviously get moments. They make so much more of Lake Town than they did in the book. We have, obviously, because Keeley is shot in the barrel scene, then he's wounded with a poison arrow, and then some of the dwarves stay behind in Lake Town. I thought that was quite a nice way to kind of cut between the climaxes. I thought that was good, kind of amped up the tension. And I also like the character of Bard the bowman. He's great. Luke Evans plays him really well. In the book, he comes in when Lake Town is being attacked by Smaug. But in the movies, I'm glad they brought him into the second movie because we needed to establish him as well. And then as a man, and then obviously he's a man who's wanted and stuff. So I think they've really enhanced his character for this movie. And he doesn't trust Thorin or any of the dwarves. Again, Richard Armitage's Thorin does a great job in this movie. There's a scene when he's standing there and he's proclaiming all the wealth that he will share with the people of Lake Town, but which obviously he doesn't do. Obviously, the wealth probably gets shared when Thorin dies in the next movie. But yeah, I thought that was a great scene. I also like the Master of Lake Town, Stephen Fry. He's pretty good in this movie, and him and his counterpart Alfred, who's not actually in the book per se, but it's sort of mentioned, not with a name, but like the Master's sort of council or whatever you want to call it. His henchman. I thought he was good. He's obviously quite a slime ball, and
yeah, you'll see how much of a slime ball he is in the next film.
Oh yeah, and regarding Tauriel, I like Tauriel. I think she's a cool character, and I'm glad they have another strong female character in this movie. But if you, man, oh man, that romance really does bring her down. If you'd have just removed that romance, then it wouldn't have been such a problem. But oh well. I mean, she does kick ass in some of the action scenes in Lake Town, which is awesome. And you know, it's the Desolation of Smaug is awesome. I also really like the backstory with Bard, you know, and his ancestor Girion, who developed the black arrows, which are the only arrows that can kill Smaug, which I thought was quite cool. And my goodness me, it's such an improvement over the first. And Benedict Cumberbatch's Smaug was perfect, and I really loved the climax when the dwarves fight him in the mountain and Bilbo as well. And they try and drown him in the gold, and then that doesn't work. And then he flies off. And then what have we done? End credits. And it's like, oh shit, oh my god, that was intense. Regarding the end credits song, "Icy Fire," I like it. It's good, but it's not the best Middle Earth song. But I like it. It works with the movie.
Yeah, I'm just not a big Ed Sheeran fan, to be honest.
You should be.
I think he's overrated. He's shit for me, anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, the song, you don't like it?
No, the song is all right, but I just think he's just so annoying. He's so overrated as like a singer-songwriter. I just don't get him. I just don't get why some people like him. It's mostly girls, to be honest, but yeah.
Yeah, I think he's good. Well, I don't listen to many of his songs, but this one I thought was pretty good, and it worked for the movie. Yeah, and overall Jackson's direction as well is superb. It really is. I do feel like they could have used Azog a bit more, though. He kind of takes a bit of a back seat in this one. He gets to do more in the third movie. Thankfully, he's kind of commanding the army, but in the first one, he had a few scenes, and then obviously turned up for the climax. But this one, he's just not really there very much. But overall, such a great movie, and it definitely is almost as good as Lord of the Rings. I give it an absolute 10 out of 10. Literally, despite the minor issues with the romance, I still think it's nearly perfect. It's so good, and I like the moment also when they pass the ruins of Dale, which obviously is referred to as the Desolation of Smaug. Again, a title that could be misinterpreted because Smaug doesn't die until the third film. But anyway, Josh, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so would you like to give us your thoughts on the Desolation of Smaug?
The Desolation of Smaug is my favorite of the Hobbit films, and it is second favorite Middle Earth film.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, my second favorite.
Fair enough.
I really enjoyed that we pick up right from the next one left off. The pacing is much better here. 2 hours and 41 minutes. Extended version is more longer, but it doesn't really matter to me because I like both versions anyway.
Have you seen the extended cut?
Yeah, I have seen the extended cut of all three Hobbit films.
I thought this one was very good. It added a lot. That was really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. The acting in this movie is great. We have Martin Freeman here again as Bilbo. We get Ian McKellen here. Great to see Orlando Bloom back. Books, and it was nice that they added another familiar face from the original trilogy here. Loved Luke Evans in this film. They gave him more of a character here. Evangeline Lilly, who's also another character who wasn't in the books. She's great as Sariel. I liked her. I did not mind the romance that they were going for her character. I don't mind it. I thought it added more to her character. All the acting in this movie is superb. The direction by Peter Jackson is still great. The effects are still great. The production design, the way the movie looks is still great. The action here is great. All the action is great. I love the score by Howard Shore. To me, Battle of the Five Armies is the weaker score in the entire series. It's
fair enough.
but we'll get to it. I do like the song at the end. Fire. I don't mind Ed Sheeran. Love seeing all some newer characters. Loved Benedict Cumberbatch as Smaug. He was really great. The motion capture work on him. He's a very large dragon, and it was great that they brought him back. Sure, he's not so much, and they do kill him off, which we'll get to. But for this second film, Benedict Cumberbatch really did a good job. I love the ending of the movie as well. With them fighting, they're trying to stop Smaug, and then it's too late. Smaug flies out, and he says, "I am fire. I am death." I'm like, this is awesome. And Bilbo just says, "What have we done?" Great. That was an awesome cliffhanger. It kind of took me back to when people were shocked at the cliffhanger ending of Empire Strikes Back when it was first released. And just I don't have a whole lot of issues with this movie. I guess the main flaw I did have is that I kind of didn't like Thorin in this movie this time around. The acting from the character is good. Rich Armitage is good. I just kind of didn't like him in this third movie this time around. But at the end of the day, Hobbit, the Ballad of Fire. I mean, Desolation Smaug is my favorite of this Hobbit trilogy. It's my second favorite film of the Middle Earth series, and because of Return of the King is my favorite Middle Earth film. Um, but anyway, anyways, I really enjoy Desolation Smaug. I will definitely pick this up soon for my Blu-ray collection. I don't have a Blu-ray player yet, but I am going to get it.
Oh, trust me, this movie, all these movies look great on Blu-ray. There's actually you can buy a 6-film extended edition box set of all 6 of them. You can buy a theatrical one as well, but it doesn't look as good.
Yeah, on my Amazon wish list, I post both box sets for The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings, so that way I can.
I actually have to say, I think the Blu-rays for the normal editions are actually still really good, Ollie. I still think they're great.
No, I'm talking about the 6-film one. There's an American one that it's like a standard DVD, but it's got just the 6 discs in it. It's just a bland design. I'm not talking about the standard ones that you've got.
Well, the box sets, I put the box sets on there for the extended editions, so that way I can have the extended editions because I like those more, even though I love the theatrical editions, and so I can finish watching the rest of the appendices for the other 2 films in the Lord of the Rings series and the Hobbit series. I watched the appendices for the Fellowship of the Ring on YouTube, and I really. So I'm pretty sure once I do get my new TV flat screen and my Blu-ray, it is going to look good. And one of the best things about Blu-ray is that you can, when you're on the main menu, it doesn't take it stays right on the of the movie whenever you click special features and scene selection. So that's going to be fun for me to do. But I give the Desolation of Smaug a 10 out of 10.
Yay! Awesome. Right. Now, let's wrap this up with the third and final film of this trilogy, The Hobbit, The Battle of the 5 Armies. Not There and Back Again, as it was originally titled, but yeah, The Battle of the 5 Armies. So, Jack, with every expectation of disaster or a rant.
Oh no. Yeah, Battle of the 5 Armies. I have to say, this is a real disappointment. No, I mean, I really wanted to go into this film loving it. I mean, I enjoyed an unexpected journey, but it was slow, and Desolation of Smaug was great. And I really wanted to love this. And I have to say, the first hour of this film, I think, is pretty good. I enjoy the first hour of this film, but I just think after that, it just kind of falls apart. I mean, the beginning, I think, is good. All the stuff with Smaug is really cool, like when he's burning down the town and they're shooting at him and stuff. But I just thought Smaug's death was really anticlimactic for me anyway. He dies within the first, 12 minutes of the film. And it's just kind of like, oh, is that it? I mean, I know they had that big battle at the end of Desolation of Smaug, but I just, I think maybe a bit more time to kill off Smaug would have been, I think they could have done that. That would have been better instead of just killing him off in the first 15 minutes. I mean, I know they still have to bring in the 5 armies and battle, but I think they could have made his death a bit longer. I just think 12 minutes, he just gets shot in the heart and he dies and that's it. I was just like, oh, okay. I mean, yeah, I just think his death they could have made it a bit longer. But I mean, it's not bad, but I just thought his death was a bit anticlimactic. I think some of the stuff here is still really good. I like the scene where you see the guy from the previous film. He's sort of become the king now because Stephen Fry basically legs it. He basically takes all the gold and stuff, or whatever, takes all this in Lake Town, and he basically legs it. Yeah, and I mean, it was interesting. When they that guy threw the rope around him and he managed to pull part of the building off. I don't know how that works, but anyway, I thought he would hang there, but I suppose it's that would be a bit gruesome for a 12 rated film, whatever. But I mean, the film, like I think it's good that we see sort of sniveling little cloud of a servant. Like you see, he's basically, oh, I told you he'd be king, he'd be a great king, and all this, and they're like, yeah, basically telling him to get lost. And his character, it's quite funny what happens to him later in the film. I think the stuff with Thorn in this film is probably my favorite thing in the movie. All the stuff with Thorn is really good. Like where you see him becoming, sort of more drawn to the dragon. Well, he's sort of more. Sorry, he's more drawn to the gold. He's becoming the dragon sickness, like his father and his grandfather, which is really interesting. You see, he sort of becomes obsessed with the gold, and him and Bilbo was really good. I think it's probably Richard Armitage's best performance of the trilogy, and the same with Martin Freeman. I think that it's their best performances. Like you can really see that basically Thorne has gone mad basically at this gold. Like he's just gone sort of, he's letting it cloud his judgment. And it's interesting, like, when he's like, oh, do you have the Arkenstone, Bilbo? He's like, if I ever find who had the Arkenstone, I'll kill him. And he says, oh, it's one of the dwarves, isn't it? It's one of them. They've stolen it. And it's an interesting scene between Bilbo and one of the other dwarves, the white-bearded one, where he says, oh, I've seen this before, dragon sickness. And you see Bilbo wants to give him the Arkenstone, but he knows if he gives it to Thorin, and Thorin will just, become completely ruthless. And, I mean, he's already sort of starting to become like that. I think all the stuff as well, like where you see, where you see the other dwarves and all that. And I think it's really cool, like some of the scenes, like the scene where Galadriel and Gandalf and all fight off Sauron, like when Sauron tries to like manifest himself, and Galadriel sort of fights him back, and she uses all her power. And you see it's like the first time in the Middle Earth saga, really, where she's quite weak in fighting, Sauron, where she banishes him to the back to the mountain, to the other side of Middle Earth for the meantime, anyway. That's really good, and that scene is just great. Like I said, I think the first hour is probably the best part of the movie. Like we just see Thorin basically, fall because of this gold, and I love that scene, like where he sees the gold and like he sees himself sort of falling into like this gold, like he has this vision of himself falling into the gold, and you really see how mad he's sort of becoming in a lot of ways. And I like the scene where you see Bilbo, he goes to the men, and we basically see Thorin now, he's blood. He's not holding his deal. Like, he's no longer going to help these men, these men who helped him. Desolation and Smaug cares. He's like, oh, I'm not going to give you guys the gold. You're not going to get it. And it's interesting that he just, he won't back out. If he gave them the gold, they wouldn't need to go to war. But Thorin, he doesn't care anymore. He loves his gold so much that he'll do anything for it.
Black and gold.
Yeah. Or like gold, always believe in your soul.
You've got the power to know you're indestructible.
Yeah.
Thorin believes it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the stuff as well with the elves is really cool, and you see the elves with the men. I mean, one thing I will notice, like the elves' armor, the sort of gold armor they're wearing. I played the game Skyrim, and I think Skyrim must have. Well, actually, Skyrim came out before Battle of the Five Armies, but I think maybe Skyrim borrowed from Lord of the Rings, because like the elves in that wear the exact same armor, or maybe I don't know, Lord of the Rings borrowed from that. I don't know, but it was kind of amusing for me because the elves in Skyrim have the exact same armor. But the scene, with Bilbo and all that. Wally's muted himself too. Oh well. He's probably be back in a sec. But I think the stuff with where the fuck's he? Right. No, I think the stuff with the men and the elves is really good, and when they're fighting each other, like where we basically say that the elves are going to go to war with the dwarves if they don't hand over the gold, and Thorin, he's basically being a stubborn bastard. Basically, he doesn't care anymore. And we actually get to see the five armies, which is cool. Like we get to see the orcs, we get to see the elves, we get to see the men. So that's three armies, and plus Billy Connolly's army, and then you've got basically Thorin and his dwarves. So that's sort of the 5 armies you've got there. Cool. I think that's really good. And I love the scene where we see Bilbo hands over the Arkenstone to the men, and they're basically asking him why, and he said, I could give to Thorin, but sort of going mad with the gold. And I like the scene, where they're on top of the fort, and men have the Arkenstone, and basically Thorin goes mad. He gets really pissed off, and we see that Bilbo basically he says to him, I'm going to get rid of the I give the Arkenstone to them because of what you become. And we see Thorin basically goes mad, like he really hates Bilbo for what he's done, because he thinks like the Arkenstone's his birthright, and he should be king, and he should rule, and pissed off, like when he says, throw him off, and and they're saying like, no, we're not going to do it, and like he's going to do it himself. And then we see and you really see Thorin, like he feels like he's being betrayed. He feels like he's being betrayed by everybody, but he doesn't realize that he could just avoid this war by giving the men some of the gold, to rebuild their lives, not their living in Dale. And I think it's great, like Richard Armitage's Thorin is like, oh, that's the last time I trust a wizard or a stinking shire. And you see Bilbo go down with Gandalf, and I think all the stuff building up to the battle is really great. Like I said, the scenes with Thorin and all that are really good. But I just think once we get to once we finally get to the battle itself, that's where the film sort of falls apart for me. I mean, I think this film is trying for me way too much to be. We're trying. It's like trying to be like the big epic conclusion to the Hobbit trilogy, and for me, it just doesn't work. I mean, I just think, I think that the action scenes are good, but they just go on way too long. I mean, after the first hour, the next 90 minutes is just action scene after action scene, and for me, it just gets really, really tiring. I mean, the action is good, like all the stuff with the armies fighting, and Billy Connolly's appearance is good when he's when he arrives as one of the basically the cousin of Thorin. I think that's good. But I just think, this film, for me, it's trying to be too much like Return of the King. Like, you've got all these epic, armies and battles, and I understand.
Battle of the 5 armies.
Yeah, I know that, but I mean, it's supposed to be called There and Back Again. But I mean, I think for me, the film, the armies, I know he's trying to make it like this epic conclusion, but for me, just kind of Jackson's trying to recapture Return of the King too much. Like it feels like he's trying to go too epic, and for me, it's kind of a letdown. I mean, after the first hour, the battle scenes are good, but it's just after the first hour, it's just 90 minutes of battle scene, action scene after action scene, and for me, it just gets really tiring. I mean, the action, like I said, it's good, but all of it's out of all the Hobbit films, this is the most CGI heavy, which is, unfortunately, a criticism I have to give this film. Is just that there's just too much CGI. I mean, don't get me wrong, the battle scenes, they're fun, but I just think there's way too CGI heavy. The Rings, Return, at least, the CGI wasn't as noticeable. Here, it's really noticeable, and it's a drag. I just think, the action scenes, like I said, while they're good, they just go on way too long. I mean, the film, after the first hour, it's just action scene after action scene. It just gets really tired. I mean, like I said, the action's fine, but just, we need to have breaks here. We need to have breaks. We can't just have action scene after action scene. But, I mean, I can understand why Jackson's doing, a sort of epic conclusion, but I just feel like the action just kind of pads out the movie. The thing that really pissed me off, of course, was the death of Keeley. I mean, you said he dies in the book, which is fair enough, but it's just like, what the fuck was the point of that romance? We just
Yeah.
kill him off. Like, you know, they're fighting that ogre, whatever it is, that troll, you know, and then he gets, you know, stabbed. It's like, what a fucking cop out. You know, Tyrell's just looking at him, and it's like,
I mean, it's only a cop out in terms of the romance. The actual death was fairly sad. I thought feel bad. I mean, both of them die in the book, but they don't actually.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the death, like, yeah, is sad, but it's just kind of like, what the fuck was the point of the last two movies then? You know, what was the point of this film and Desolation of Smaug if the love story adds to nothing? You know, it's just kind of like, that was a disappointment. And I have to agree with Alan there. Like, you know, that just kind of pissed me off. And, I mean, you know, like I said, you know, when I was watching this, like, you know, the first hour, I thought, oh, this is better than An Unexpected Journey, but it just kind of fell apart after that for me anyway. I mean, I really wanted to love this film. Like I said, I really tried. I really just wanted this to be a great conclusion to the Hobbit trilogy, but sadly, I don't think it was, for me anyway. I mean, I think Alan agrees with me. I think he says Unexpected Journey was good, Desolation of Smaug was his favorite, and then Battle of the Five Armies was his least favorite. I mean, I think Alan likes this film less than I do. I mean, I gave it a 6, he gave it a 5, I think, in his brief review.
Yeah, I think he thinks it's all right, but in comparison to the other movies, he thought it was a major disappointment.
Yeah, but I can understand. I mean, I think out of all the Middle-earth films, this is easily the weak. Some people would say An Unexpected Journey because, you know, at least with Battle of the Five Armies more happens. But I just think there's a lot of disappointing things here in Battle of the Five Armies, and you're gonna kill Keely off. Just what the fuck was the point of that romance? And then after that, I mean, the action scenes, like, they just go on a bit more. I mean, that's when Legolas was jumping up the bricks as the bridge was falling. I mean, come on.
I mean, that was a little bit unbelievable.
Yeah, you know, bricks as the bridge is falling. Like, come on, like. I mean, you know, you had him hurt in Desolation of Smaug. Can't you just have him hurt a bit more? Just don't do something that ridiculous. But I mean, after that, when you final battle scene of Azog and Thorin, I just, like, the action scene just went on too long, and I just got bored. And I was just like, that final action scene, I didn't care. I mean, when he drops the thing through the ice and Azog falls in, it should have ended there. You know, Azog should have died there. I mean, I haven't read the book, so yeah. I mean, like I said, you know,
that's funny. Azog isn't even in the book, but they made some changes to the appendices because Azog was killed in that battle at Moria, but then they changed him for Thorin. And it actually works better, I think, that way.
Yeah, but I mean, I just think, you know, like when he falls through the ice, he should have died there. I mean, he would have fucking freeze to death, but no, he smashes through the ice. And then we have that final action scene where, you know, they're fighting, and for me, it's just such a letdown. I mean, you know, Thorin just, you know, he just lets himself get stabbed. I was just thinking to myself, like, why? Like, I mean, I know he did it so he could stab Azog, but I just felt like, why did Thorin have to die? I mean, if it's in the book, fair enough. If it's in the book, I understand. But I just thought it was a letdown. I mean, I understand what you were saying, Ollie. Like, you know, he thought he failed as king. But I just thought, you know, we'd spent 3 movies with this main character. We'd spent 3 movies with Thorin and Bilbo. And I just thought, you know, only kill Azog himself and then he would become the king. But no, he lets himself get stabbed, which pisses me off even more. And he just, you know, and then he kills Azog. And his death, I was just kind of like, oh, well, I mean, we already had Keely die, which, you know, I could sort of get over, but like Thorin dying, I mean, I just think it's a cop-out. I mean, if J.R.R. Tolkien wrote it, then fair enough, but I just feel like it was just a cop-out, you know. It was a cop-out by J.R.R. Tolkien, and it was a cop-out by Jackson, I felt. For me, anyway, I just felt like we've been on this journey for 3 films, and he just dies like that, you know. Well, fair enough, but I mean, I thought, you know, the scene after that was nice when Gandalf's sort of sitting beside Bilbo and he's like lighting his pipe, you know. That's good. But I just thought the ending of the film, I agree with Harry, like, it just left so many things unresolved. What happened to the elves? Did the men get their gold? You know, we don't know. It's just, you know, Bilbo says goodbye to the dwarves, he goes home to the Shire, and that's really it. I mean, I like the scene at the end though, like, you know, when back at the Shire and, you know, he he goes and finds basically all this furniture and the stuff in his house being sold and all that. You know, that was a funny scene. I like that. Like, you know, he's like, you know, this is all my stuff here, and you know, tie into Lord of the Rings, like where it cuts back 60 years later, and then you have to knock on the door, which leads into Fellowship of the Ring. So, I mean, yeah, that's Battle of the Five Armies. I mean, it's not a bad film, but just for me, just a really major letdown, honestly. I mean, I wanted to love this. I wanted this to be the epic conclusion of the Hobbit trilogy, but for me, I mean, it's not a bad film. I still say it's good. It's passable. I mean, I still enjoy it, but I just think there are a lot of problems here. I mean, like I said, Smaug's death I just thought was rushed. Just like, I mean, I just thought, you know, he could have spent a bit more time with him and have him die a bit later in the film, and just cut down on the action scenes, because I just thought the action going on for an hour and a half, you know, just constant action really bored me. I just feel like this sort of epic. Just a lot of things sort of let me down, like Keely and Tario, that went nowhere, and it's just Thorne's death for me was just a cop out. So I mean, overall, I mean, it's not a bad film. It's not like horrible. I mean, I agree with you. Like, you know, people who compare the Hobbit trilogy to Star Wars, just fuck off. I mean, it's nowhere near as but I mean, it's nowhere near as bad as the Star Wars prequels. I mean, at least you don't have terrible dialogue like, "Oh, I hate sand. It's rough, coarse, and irritating. It gets everywhere."
Gold. It's rough, coarse, irritating. I like it when it gets everywhere.
Yeah, that'll be a funny line if Thorne said that. No, I mean, you know, as the Star Wars prequels, I mean, at least Jackson was trying it, and that's the one thing I will say.
Yeah, at least Jackson could direct, like George Lucas.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one thing I will say about Battle of the Five Armies. I mean, at least Jackson is trying to film here. He's trying, like Alan said, he's really, really trying. I just think it's a disappointment. I mean, out of all the Hobbit, well, not the Hobbit, yeah, out of all the Hobbit films and out of the whole Middle-earth saga, this is the, I know it's Alan's least favorite as well, and Harry Thomas's least favorite. So, I mean, yeah, it was just a disappointment for me, and I just felt, you know, you could have ended the Hobbit trilogy on a better note than this. And like I said, I tried to like this more than Unexpected Journey, but I just couldn't. So I'm going to have to give Desolation of Smaug a 6 out of 10.
Desolation of Smaug?
Sorry, no, Battle of Five Armies. Not Desolation of Smaug, got confused there.
I know it's one story, but they're two different movies.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just on conclusion on that. I think the Hobbit trilogy just should have been 2 films. Like,
oh, Jack, we'll do a summary at the very end.
Yeah. Okay. So
we need to get me and Josh to say our piece, and then we'll wrap up. But...
yeah. Okay. So yeah, 6 out of 10.
Cool. So, Josh, what do you think of Battle of the Five Armies? Josh.
To go again.
Oh, no, there he is.
Oh, I'm glad you asked. Well, the Hobbit Battle of Five Armies. Okay, you're not gonna like hearing this, but this is my least favorite of the Hobbit trilogy as well. But I don't hate it like everyone else does. It's not horrible.
Would you say it's the weakest in Middle Earth as well?
I still really like the movie. It's still great.
Josh, sorry, would you say it's your least favorite of the 6 movies?
My least. It's just my least favorite of the 6 movies. This is it's a tie with least favorite Middle Earth movie. It's a tie between this film and Fellowship of the Ring. But
really?
You don't like Fellowship of the Ring?
Yeah.
No, I still love Fellowship. I love all of them dearly. But with both trilogies, I have a least favorite. Two Towers is my least favorite in the original trilogy. But I still like it. But thinking about it, this might be it. This might be my least favorite of the 6 films. This might be my least favorite in the 6 film series. But it's also the weakest in this Hobbit trilogy but I don't hate it. There's a lot. I've seen weaker trilogy endings. Pirates of the Caribbean or World's End example. But the Battle of Five Armies, there's plenty to enjoy. I like the action sequences in here. It's just a lot of wall-to-wall action, and it's pretty decent. The acting was so nice, decent, great. Benedict Cumberbatch is in here for a little bit. It's Smaug, and he's doing good here. The opening of the movie is pretty good. The music is still great, and I like the song at the end, "The Last Goodbye," and I like that they did what they did in Return of the King with the credits.
Yeah.
I really do enjoy seeing how Peter Jackson wraps this up. It's not the best ending to the trilogy, but it's not trying to be the same ending as Return of the King. It's trying to be something far more better than what Return of the King is, and that's why I appreciate it. And the visual effects, of course, are good. Cinematography is still pretty. The music is still solid. Like I said, it's solid. I all 6 middle songs. Yeah, but I do have a couple of problems with this movie. I feel like this is 2 hours and 25 minutes. This movie is a little tad bit too short. It's a tad bit too short, and I don't mind it being short, but I'm used to these Middle Earth movies being long. And,
Yeah, I mean, for Jackson standards, it's short. He's obviously cutting back a lot for the extended edition.
Yeah.
I think the extended cut actually makes this one a lot better.
Yeah. And this is the first and only Crime in the Middle Earth series which has the extended cut to be R rated for more violence. But I also appreciate it. Also, is again, I want to see Star Wars a little bit longer, but that's wasn't the case. I feel like half of this movie is kind of a little bit like off, but it's not particular. It's not extremely off, but there are points where it does become a little lazy. But there's a lot to like. I don't think Battle Armies is a bad movie. I still love it, not just as much as I did when I saw it the first time on cable, but I still enjoy it. And I can watch both of each of the 6 theatrical and extended because I'm a guy who's used to long movies as long as they don't get to the point where there's nothing happening. But I would give this an 8.3.
Oh, cool. So you still think it's good, but not great.
As good as the first two, but if you were just made this one a little longer and fix a few problems that Jack himself has, I feel like this would have been a 10 out of 10 for sure. But as a Middle Earth fan, it is an 8.3 out of 10 for me. We'll talk more about the trilogy once Ollie gives his thoughts on it. 5 Armies. And you always make sure to answer this.
Cool. Just to say, Josh, your connection is really struggling there. I had trouble understanding a lot of what you said. You might want to look into that. Anyway, so the Battle of the Five Armies. Don't hate me, guys. I really like this film. Yeah, sue me. Shoot me. Burn me.
Joking.
Lake Town. But, you know, fuck it. I would defend this movie to my death. I do not, for the life of me, understand why this film gets hated. Bad reviews. Like, has everyone seen a different film to me? Like, I really like this film, and it's my second favorite of the trilogy. Yeah, sure, it definitely takes certain liberties too far with the CGI. I acknowledge that, but you have to go into the mindset that you're not gonna get a Lord of the Rings battle. You're getting something that's a bit different to that. So I put Lord of the Rings aside, and I just watched it for what it was, and I thought it was well constructed. I mean, it's not the best thing Jackson's ever done. I acknowledge that. But I, as a diehard fan, really liked it, and I thought it was a great conclusion to the trilogy. It's not a perfect movie, but it is really good, and I really like that the film kind of just throws you straight into the action with Smaug attacking Lake Town. And unlike most people, I actually didn't mind that Smaug was 10 minutes. I thought it worked fine because then it was good because we saw Thorin not really caring, and he was more focused on the gold in the mountain. It was a way to sort of segue of the third movie, which was great. But the actual sequence when they burn down Lake Town, I think is awesome. And I think it's a great way to start the movie. It's a great action scene. And when Bard, how Reef makes the bow and then he shoots the arrow into Smaug with his son, like having the arrow lent on his shoulder, which is quite good. The reason why I prefer this one to An Unexpected Journey is because there's more conflict, there's more emotional drama, and there's more conflict, and I'm an unexpected lower than this. But not that I'm wrong with An Unexpected Journey. I just think this one there's a bit more going on as well, and I like the build up to the battle. I think it works really well. The romance is a problem. It just doesn't go anywhere. What was the point if the characters were going to be separate for most of the movie? But okay. Anyway, I really great about. I mean, people who criticize this movie say that it doesn't have enough story. What? I mean, the whole story of this movie is Thorin's descent into madness, and it was coming. We knew it was coming. I mean, Balin had said in the Desolation of Smaug, the sickness, the same sickness drove your grandfather mad. And you could see at the end of the second movie, Thorin was really succumbing to the same sickness, the dragon sickness.
Yeah.
I mentioned actually with the Desolation of Smaug, there was a great scene when they arrive at the mountain, and that was a very emotional scene when they find a key and they put it through the hole and they go through the doorway, and then after that, Balin says to Thorin, I fear for you, blah blah blah. And in this movie, we get to see Thorin just completely lose it. Like, he's lost the plot. He's obsessed with gold.
Yeah,
actually,
Ollie, I'm so sorry to interrupt. Like, when some people criticize the film of not having enough plot, I think maybe they might just be talking about the action, because there is a lot of action in this film.
Yeah, no, but I think they mean generally as well. But I see what you mean. But to me, there is enough plot, and it's also a great continuation because Thorin, he promised the men of Lake Town a share of the treasure, and obviously Smaug had destroyed Lake Town. He kind of needed it, but he refused, which is a bit of a shame. And they can all see him going mad. And this is particularly a problem for Bilbo because Bilbo has the fucking stone in his pocket, which is and the friendship between Thorin and Bilbo, I think, is great and is greatly resolved in this movie. You can see how much Bilbo has really changed, and he's grown to care. And vice versa by the end of the movie. This is a strong battle movie, no question about that. It is a war movie, and you get a lot of action. It's a Peter Jackson movie. You're going to get a lot of that. I didn't think there was too much action at all. I mean, the extended edition adds a lot more action, and that probably is quite a lot, but I mean, in the theatrical edition, I didn't think there was very much at all. I mean, there was quite a bit, but it didn't feel like much to me. Maybe because I'm just used to the huge battles that we got in the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it did. It just felt like it took up too much of the movie. Like, I understand you need action in there, but for me, it's just kind of like action scene after action scene. For me, anyway. Like,
go to sleep then.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm joking. But I thought what's great about Jackson as a director is that he directs action in a way that makes you really care. I mean, obviously for you, Jack, you didn't care, but at least for me, I cared. When we see shots of the dead women and children, that just reminds me that, you know, they're always fighting to defend the people. You know, it's not just about, you know, I mean, the five armies. I mean, that's the only other thing about this is that sometimes the five armies themselves can get confusing.
The five armies.
Oh god, yeah. Well, obviously, you have the dwarves, if you want to include Dane and his army. The orcs, led by Azog.
The elves.
The elves, the men.
humans,
So that's four.
yeah.
And then some people count the eagles as well, but they're
No,
not
I
very
count
common.
Doran as, I think when they mean five armies, like they count four in the dwarves as like a separate army.
Yeah, but there's only 13 of them, so I wouldn't count that. But there's actually two orc armies. So I'd say there's two orc armies, the elves, the men, and the dwarves, which include the 13 dwarves, the main 13 dwarves. And actually, it's worthy to note that Billy Connolly appears in this movie as Dane, who is Thorin's cousin. And he was quite funny, though he has some good lines, and it's quite funny seeing him ride a pig. I thought that was quite good.
Yeah, I heard some people like really didn't like Billy Connolly in this film because like, oh, you're trying to add comedy relief into, you know.
Oh, but yeah, but who the fuck cares? You know,
Yeah,
I don't care. I mean,
I don't care. I thought he was good.
yeah, I thought it was good. I mean, you don't want it to be too serious, and that's what I was worried about because obviously the last third of this book gets quite serious because you're edging more towards a tone that is very reminiscent of the Lord of the Rings, and it felt like a Lord of the Rings anyway.
Yeah,
tone
for me,
anyway.
it just felt like
More
Return.
serious.
Yeah, for me, it felt like Return of the King. It was trying to be too much like Return of the King, which I thought was a problem because I just felt like it wasn't near the epic scale of that film. But fair enough.
I'm sorry, I have to disagree. I feel that in terms of the battle, yeah, it probably was trying to be huge, but I don't think it was ever trying to be on Return of the King level. But it definitely tried to be huge and big. And in terms of the emotional scale, certainly didn't reach the level of Return of the King, but I don't think it tried to. I think it was trying to be its own thing, but it may have ended up looking like it was trying too hard to be something else. That's my interpretation of it. But obviously, if you feel different, fair enough. I agree with you about Legolas. He is way too perfect in this film. But I mean, Orlando Bloom gives a good performance, and obviously he decides to leave. And at the end of the movie, there's a nice reference to Aragorn, which is nice, setting us up for Lord of the Rings. And Thranduil is also returning in this movie, which I like. He finally gets his comeuppance, which is good because he's an absolute bastard. He's a coward. And
yeah. I thought it was hilarious. Like Stephen Fry's a henchman, like where he's running away, the girl's dress, and he's got the coins like in his dress. It looks like he has two huge boobs.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about Thranduil.
Oh, sorry.
Legolas' father. Yeah, but I'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, when Tariel confronts him and she says, "Oh, you will not turn away, not this time." And you know, he says, "Get out of my way," you know. And he says, "Oh, you're in love with this dwarf. Are you ready to die for it?" And then, you know, he's just so bitter. He finally, by the end of the film, he sees how much she was in love with him, even if the love story wasn't done well. But
by the way, you know the way Brandon or whatever his name isn't in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Does he die in between like sagas or whatever?
Well, I'm not too sure. Thranduil. I mean, they mention him in Fellowship of the Ring in the extended edition, but he doesn't reappear. So I assume he just goes back to his cave. his tree, goes back to his tree and just stays there. But we never hear of him again. So yeah, I don't know. Ways from Legolas. So yeah, but and I mean, what this movie does do, which you guys haven't really mentioned yet, is that it does lead in very well to the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, I know. I mentioned the knock on the door at the end of it. I thought that led into the Fellowship of the Ring really well.
Yeah, no, fair enough. That was great, but also in the extent Radagast gives Gandalf his staff, and that is the staff that Gandalf uses in the Fellowship of the Ring. Obviously, because if you remember in the Desolation of Smaug, Gandalf's staff got destroyed, so continuity-wise, it makes more sense, and he has a new staff. Same thing happens in the extended Lord of the Rings. He loses the staff in Return of the King. In the extended edition, he gets a new one. So I mean that's my understanding. I really love the scene in Dol Guldur. The Dol Guldur fight was awesome. That was so good when they rescue Gandalf and Galadriel banishes Sauron to.
Yeah, that was probably my favorite scene in the film.
Yeah, that was just awesome. I mean, I had nerdgasms, fangasms.
Oh, you came in your pants?
Well, I definitely came somewhere.
On the movie screen.
I mean,
what's right there, guy in the front?
On Galadriel's hand.
Oh god! you came in front of the guy in the front row seat. What?
Battle of the Five Commies. Anyway.
Oh god! It's like, hey, you look like Radagast. Looks like burnt shit in your hair.
Oh god, yeah. It's all in the wrist. Anyway, let's move on from that. Yeah, that was a good scene, and despite what people say, I think Jackson's direction. Why can't I speak? Jackson's direction on all three of these movies are great, and this one as well. Just get over it.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all right. It's fine. The film felt very short to me. I mean, the theatrical cut did anyway. It was 2 hours 24 minutes. That's short by Jackson's standards. It's almost an hour shorter than the Return of the King theatrical cut. But I think the extended edition definitely helps with little bits here and there. I mean, what was I going to say? There's so much to talk about. I think Azog is great in this movie. He gets more to do, and I actually really like his final fight with Thorin because, and the death. I know that Jack, you had a problem with Thorin's death. I thought it was fine. I think it was Thorin kind of redeeming himself because if you think about it, he was already the king. And he'd failed in what he was meant to do. He'd succumbed to the same sickness as his grandfather and his father. So
yeah, but I thought he redeemed himself by going out to battle anyway.
Yeah, no, but then he managed to patch things up with Bilbo. But I think he felt in that situation he didn't know what else to do. The only option he had was to let himself get stabbed and then stab Azog. Thought it was fine, and then the scene with him, his death scene with Bilbo, I thought was really lovely. And he said, "Oh, go back to your books and your armchair." And he basically apologized for being a dick. So I thought it was wrapped up really well, and you could see that Bilbo really did care for him, and they grew a strong friendship. And I think obviously the throne passes to Dane, who's Billy Connolly. He'd had a chance to be the king, and he felt he failed. And although when he went on to battle, he obviously he was going to go to his death, but he probably thought, it doesn't matter because he redeemed himself.
Yeah, fuck it. That's what he was thinking.
Yes. Ending's nice. It's not like a 20-minute epilogue like Return of the King, which is what I thought we were going to get, but I think the ending's good enough.
I mean, I think when people bitch about Return of the King, like the ending goes on too long, I think you needed to see how the stories ended up, how it all wrapped up. That's just one of the things. I mean, Battle of Five Armies, I get why he made it shorter, but it's like, what the hell happened to the doors? What happened to the men? Did they get their gold like Harry Thomas said? We don't know what happened,
Well, I mean, the men of the Lake Town end up living in Dale now. So I think what they do is, obviously it's never stated in the movie, but I imagine Dane, who's the king now, he shares some of the wealth with them, and they get to rebuild their homes in Dale. So that hopefully, that dwarves just live in Erebor as they were. And in the extended cut, there is a funeral scene, a very brief, with Thorin, Fili, and Kili, which was very touching. So yeah, I mean, I thought it wrapped up nicely, and obviously Gandalf knows Bilbo has the ring, so setting us up for Lord of the Rings, keeping an eye on things. And when Bilbo goes back to the Shire, that was nice. That was a nice moment.
It was a funny scene. Yeah.
The one thing I want to know is how did he eventually get all of his stuff back?
Yeah.
I mean, he must have done it because of, Lord of the Rings. Led into Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Ring things.
Yeah. And, I love the very last scene, the scene that ties into Fellowship of the Ring, the other side of that scene when Gandalf arrives and then in home, which I thought was really, really nice. And that was a lovely way to sort of bridge the two trilogies together. And also there's other references in the movie, like the mithril vest that Thorin gives Bilbo, and that is taken into Lord of the Rings. And it's given. So there's tiny little details that Jackson has wonderfully crafted this saga together. It's his saga. He's made it. I mean, obviously they're based on Tolkien's works, but he has made this cinematic saga of 6 movies that will stand alongside each other as a grand story that you can see the little things tie in together. I mean, at least The Hobbit, you can say what you will about the quality of the movies, but at least it ties in very, very well, and the story is, in my opinion anyway. And I thought the battle was pretty awesome. It was pretty spectacular. There was one funny moment when one of the trolls just ran up to the wall and dived into it and then bashed his head and then fell down. And in the extended edition, they add this chariot chase in, which is really, really good. Just type it on YouTube and you'll find it. It's pretty fun. But I mean, yes, the CGI can be a bit of a problem, but I don't mind it too much. I'm able to look past it, and I enjoy the battle for what it is.
Didn't think it was fucking shit. Oh, joking.
I enjoyed the battle for what it was. I mean, they start off not really winning, and then towards when the 13 dwarves charge out of the mountain, that was epic, and that was when the battle kind of changed the tide. And they struggled with that actually when they were developing the movie. They struggled with how to make the dwarves change the battle, but if you think about it, even like a small number of people can make an enormous difference to a battle, and I think
hence Battle of the 5 Armies.
Yes, and this is a clear example of that. And I think The Hobbit: The Battle of the 5 Armies is really, really good. I don't see what the major issues are with them, with people have with this.
Seriously?
Yeah, there's so much beef with this movie. Just stop grilling it. Jeez.
Jesus, I mean, Daniel Craig can do that.
Oh, God. I mean, is it a perfect movie? No, of course not. I mean, the romance is easily the weakest thing in the movie. I mean, and yes, I can see what you mean. Kili's death, if they didn't have the romance, Kili's death would have been a little bit better, but it was really quite sudden. That was intense. When Azog, he's just holding him, and then he just stabs him, and then he lets him drop. That was brutal. Eesh. And also, on a final note, Howard Shore's music score, I thought it was pretty solid. I think it was a bit better than the Desolation of Smaug score, but not quite as good as an Unexpected Journey score. But it's a good enough score, and it works well. And the song for the credits, "The Last Goodbye," is very, very moving.
That's a nice song. Yeah,
by Billy Boyd, and the actual credits themselves.
Yeah, the credits are good. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that they went back to the Return of the King idea and had all the actors' faces in the credits, and
yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, I'm glad they did that because obviously it was, even though it's not the last film of the saga, it's the end of the trilogy. So
it was the last film of the saga for people who watched Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, well, it was the last one to be released, so I guess they were going to do it either way. And I think it's a wonderful series of films. I couldn't be happier with it. So I'm going to score the Battle of the 5 Armies a 9 out of 10. Before I pass over to Jack, I think the Hobbit trilogy overall is really, really good. I really like it. I mean, it's not perfect, of course, and it's not nowhere near as good as Lord of the Rings, but
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be. I think it's seriously underrated, and I think people should just cut it some slack. I'm one of those people that actually didn't mind that it was a trilogy. You know what? Jackson could tell it in 3 movies. He could tell it in 12 movies. Who cares? Well, obviously he's not going to do it in 12 movies, but it's just,
yeah, that would be really stretching it.
yeah, like 1 chapter per film. But anyway, it's
just 2 hours of Gandalf walking down the street.
Yeah. I mean, the first film would have been like the climax would have been Bomber steals the cheese, and it's like Cluedo, like who's stolen the cheese? Ends up being Bomber. That'd be funny, actually. I'd like to see that. But
it's just 3 hours of them like talking really slowly, like Bilbo, you need to go on quest.
That would be an epic. Yeah, it was a welcome return to Middle Earth. I'm so glad that Jackson did it, because he's the guy that started this with Lord of the Rings, and he's made another trilogy of it. And I think the 6 movies together all work really well. One day, if I get the time, I will marathon all the extended cuts and
Jesus,
watch the hell out of them. Not on the same day, but like in consecutive days. I'll watch all 6 of them, like if I get a chance. And because I think it's one of the greatest series of movies ever made. I really do. And I think Peter Jackson has changed the face of fantasy cinema. And I think Howard Shore has actually changed the face of film scoring as well. Some of his scores have been excellent. So if I were to rank the movies, all 6 of them, at the bottom, I would have to put An Unexpected Journey, but I still love it. Number 5 would be The Battle of the Five Armies. 4, The Desolation of Smaug. 3, Fellowship of the Ring. 2, The Two Towers. And number 1 is The Return of the King. So what do you think of the Hobbit trilogy overall? And what do you think of the Middle-earth saga overall? And how do you movies?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, well, you're called Jack, aren't you?
Well, I didn't hear you say Jack. Yeah. Fuck off! No. I think overall the Hobbit trilogy, I think it's a decent trilogy. I'm going to be honest. I don't think it's one of the greatest trilogies of all time. Lord of the Rings, I think that is one of the greatest trilogies of all time. But the Hobbit trilogy, it's still good. I mean, Unexpected Journey, it's good, but it's quite slow. I think the first, like I said, 90 minutes of that, I think you could have cut that down to at least 2 hours, but it was still a good film. I still enjoyed that. Desolation of Smaug is fucking awesome. Really love that movie. I'd say probably on par with maybe Fellowship and Two Towers. And Battle of the Five Armies, that's just a real disappointment for me. So, I would get that a 6 out of 10. So overall, I think it's a decent trilogy. I mean, I to be honest, I don't think I would rush back to it. I mean, I would watch Desolation of Smaug again for sure, but I don't know if I'd rush back to watch Unexpected Journey, and definitely wouldn't rush back to rewatch Battle of the Five Armies. I mean,
fan commentary.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would do it. Yeah, I would do an audio fan commentary. Yeah, but I mean, I just think overall, I mean, I'm still glad I watched the Hobbit trilogy. I'm still glad you recommended it to me. I mean,
yeah,
because Desolation
even if you didn't like it, it was good to compare it to The Lord of the Rings.
Oh no, I still like the trilogy. Don't get me wrong. I still think it's a decent trilogy. I just don't love it the same way as Lord of the Rings. I mean, I think Lord of the Rings is miles better for me anyway.
Oh,
but, yeah. But it's still a good trilogy. I'm not going to say it's like a piece of shit or anything like that. It's not like the Star Wars.
Dare you?
It's not like the Star Wars prequels. I just think it's heavily flawed. I mean, I think, to be honest, I agree with Alan and other people when they said The Hobbit should have been 2 films. I mean, I understand why they made them as 3 films, probably to make them more commercially bankable. But I just think, 3-hour films about one book is it's stretching, a plot too thin. I mean, it's not like Lord of the Rings where you have 3 books, so you can make 3-hour films about each book. I mean, I think, 9 hours of film on one book, I just think is stretching it way too much. I mean, Desolation of Smaug was good because it got to the real meat of the story, but I think Unexpected Journey was dragged out, and I think Battle of the Five Armies was dragged out. So, I mean, to be honest, if Jackson made them, I think he probably just should have made them as 2 films, like Guillermo del Toro suggested.
Yeah, I don't think you could do it in one. I think because of the tone are so dramatic, and there's a lot that happens. I think doing it in one.
I think 2. Yeah, I think 2 would have been perfect. And I mean, I think even Jackson admitted himself, he didn't really know. He didn't really know what he was doing on the Hobbit trilogy. I mean, he did know what he was doing, but like he admitted that we didn't have enough time to prepare. Like it wasn't like Lord of the Rings where you had 3 years before that to prepare for it. Making all the costumes, preparing the films out. They were just like, okay, make these 3 films. And I mean, I admire him for doing that, making the 3 films back to back. But at the end of the day, maybe he just shouldn't have really bothered with the Hobbit trilogy. I mean, well, maybe he should have, but maybe he should have, but I just think he could have done a bit of a better job. But I mean, a still decent trilogy. I mean, I think they're nowhere near as bad as people say, like the Star Wars prequels. I mean, come on, you're
we're haunted by the scripts that he never should have given us.
I mean, you're really scraping the bottom of the barrel if you're saying that they're as bad as the Star Wars prequels or worse. I mean, at least Jackson was trying. At least, you could tell he put effort into there. At least there isn't. I mean, there is a lot of CGI in the Hobbit compared to Lord of the Rings, but at least it's not CGI every 2 seconds. At least not every set is CGI, and at least the dialogue isn't dreadful like the prequels. So, I mean, yeah. I mean, and if I was to say overall in the Middle Earth saga, I would say definitely I prefer Lord of the Rings for sure. Like, I mean, Fellowship of the Ring is great. Two Towers is even better.
Jack? No. Oh, well, we're wrapping up anyway.
Right. So
You might as well just carry on, Josh, and then if Jack comes back, he can finish up.
Overall, the Hobbit trilogy, I think is a good trilogy. Is it a perfect trilogy? Heck no, it's not. But yeah, it does have problems. It does have a lot of CGI, but the CGI is not like the Star Wars prequels. But I'm one of the people who are willing to defend the Star Wars prequels as well as defend this trilogy. Unexpected Journey is a really awesome start. I love it. It does take a while to get going, but if you're invested in the world, I think you can forgive it. Desolation of Smaug is easily my favorite in the trilogy. I love it. Expands on its Unexpected Journey, and it does improve on the runtime aspect of Unexpected Journey. I have one little nitpick with that movie, but I still really enjoy it, and the cliffhanger was worth it. Battle of the Five Armies, I do have some problems with, but it's not the worst Middle Earth movie. It's not even the worst third installment out there. I've seen plenty of bad third installments.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think it's horrible. I think it's really good. But it has issues. Unexpected Journey is a 9.1 out of 10. Desolation of Smaug, 10 out of 10. And Battle of the Five Armies is a 8.3 out of 10. 8.3 out of 10 is because it's still great, just not as good as it could have been. But the Middle Earth saga, I adore this saga. It's one of my favorite movie franchises ever, up there with Star Wars and the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the DC Cinematic Universe and Harry Potter, which is my favorite film franchise of all time, is up there with so many good franchises like James Bond and stuff. that's the thing. You have so many good franchises. You don't know where you could put the Middle Earth franchise into it. But I do have a favorite movie franchise of all time video coming very soon.
Oh wow, nice.
Because I am back on the scene, and I've been uploading a lot over the last couple of days. But Fellowship of the Ring is a great start to the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I love it. The Two Towers might be my least favorite, but I really do enjoy how it plays out. And Return of the
I think it's
King,
testament to say that there's not a bad movie in the series.
yeah, it's not a bad movie in the series. It's really great. And Return of the King is definitely the best film in the Return of the King series. See, you didn't have to Pirates of the Caribbean or World's End. I'm looking at you. You did not have to be Return of the King. You should. anyways, but anyways, to rank the franchise from the best, I've updated this a little bit. So at number 6, I'm gonna go with the Hobbit: The Battle of the Five Armies. At number 5, I'm gonna go with the Two Towers. And number 4, I'm gonna go with An Unexpected Journey. And number 3, I'm gonna go with The Fellowship of the Ring. And number 2, The Desolation of Smaug. And number 1 is Return of the King.
Awesome.
So my updated rank. And
yeah, cool.
Can't wait to get these movies on Blu-ray, watch the extended editions, and watch the appendices. It's gonna be good. Hopefully, one day I'll marathon these, but I'm gonna marathon the Lord of the Rings trilogy first because I'm gonna do it theatrically.
Awesome. Well,
yeah.
Thanks very much. I mean, Jack's gone. I think there's a connection problem, but we're pretty much done now anyway. So, yeah, thank you guys for watching and listening. Thank you to Jack and Josh for joining me. And as always, I'm Mr. TARDIS 11.